So I guess I should have waited for one more view graph because now it's intermission. Here are some ancillary tasks for you to do. To pause here, I'd like you to go and watch Damien Horowitz talk about sort of ethical operating systems. He's not directly talking about Tor, but he is talking about whether or not it's ethical to collect data and really to do cyber analysis. And today we actually have a reading assignment. I have been trying to get you guys reading assignments, but just haven't found anything that I liked, but I liked this one. This is called Open Source, A Movement in Search of a Philosophy. And you can find it at this webpage. So back to the Onion router. The Onion router does not hide the fact that Tor is accessing your website. It only hides the identity of the person or the computer and the computer. It's encrypted at the application layer. That's the highest of the 7 layers. So none of the other layers can read it. And it is iteratively encrypted again and again and again. Both the data and the next node destination IP address are repeatedly encrypted. And then the final message is sent through a virtual circuit with random selection of which computers to go to get decrypted. So you encrypt and you encrypt and you encrypt. Let's say you encrypt 5 times. It's actually done more than that. But let's say you encrypt 5 times. Then you launch it to a random one of the volunteer machines that are running support for Tor. And the first one will decrypt the 5th encryption. The next one will decrypt the 4th. The next one will decrypt the 3rd. And by the time you get to the end of your virtual circuit, through this volunteer network of computers, your message will be unencrypted and it will be sent to the correct IP address. Tor has been hacked before. The NSA had a trackable method with an old version of Firefox, but an update got rid of that issue. Tor was built by the United States government, in particular the Office of Naval Research, in cooperation with DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. DARPA funds lots of college professors' research, as does ONR. And they were looking for a secure way to communicate during battles, and so they developed Tor. Here are the kinds of things that use Tor. I'm showing you these because this really is an ethical question I'm trying to ask you, which is it ethical to have a dark web? And you'll see that some of the things it is used for are really quite bad, and some of them are very, very good. So 0.4% are used for gambling, 1.4% for the purchase of guns, 2.2% to chat anonymously, 2.2%, and they don't use it for abuse, they use it to help abused people safely escape. 2.5% to access books, 2.75% to read blogs, 2.75% for porn, 3.5% for hosting sites, 4.25% for practicing security hacking, 4.25% for searching for things, 4.5% just for being anonymous, 4.75% for anonymous forums, 5.2% for selling counterfeit money. That's quite a large percentage of these tasks. I thought that was kind of amazing. Now here's a good one, 5.2% for whistleblowers. A lot of the media and whistleblowers are communicating off of the surface web so that they can work out the details before they get in trouble with their job, etc. 5.2% for wiki, 5.7% for anonymous mail, 6.2% for the economic exchange on this web, 9% for fraud, for defrauding you of things, 9% for marketing sales, mostly things they don't want other people to know they're buying, and a whopping 15.4% for the sale of drugs. What is it about being anonymous? Why do people want to be anonymous? Is it ethical to be anonymous? Is it sometimes ethical and sometimes unethical, depending upon what you're doing? And if it's always unethical, should the system exist at all? I was pleasantly surprised when I was quite young, probably in my early 20s, that it was clear after an incident with a friend of mine how being anonymous may change who you are. I was driving down the road. I drive slow. You probably heard Russ Tuck and I talk about this already. I drive too slow. And so the car was unhappy with me. I had been on the freeway. I was just pulling off on a lane. He would have had, to follow me for 10 seconds before he could have passed me in the second lane, but he just simply didn't have time. So this car, angry that he had to go the speed limit like I was going, revved his engine, ripped around me, and then turned to give me a terrible glare to tell me what a horrible person I was because I wasn't driving at the speed he thought I should. And as soon as he started to look at me, he recognized me, and of course I recognized him, and he was so embarrassed. He was so embarrassed. And I thought, wow, he, as an anonymous person, could allow himself to be mean and even justify being mean. But when he realized somebody knew how badly he was behaving and could trace it back to him, he didn't want that to happen, and he didn't want them to know. So this concept of being anonymous is really liberating and possibly not in a good way. And one of the things the internet does for us, even the surface web, is to anonymize us. And as such, is really introducing some difficult problems with people and their developments. So I think I made it clear that there are some ethical uses for the dark web. In particular, people who are in slavery in different countries for different reasons can and are using the dark web to try and escape. Children who have been kidnapped can try to use it. We recently built a product that is developed for Southeast Asia that hides on the surface web, but has 2 layers on the surface web. And you can get to the second layer only if someone has given you an access key so that it's safer and to protect you. It's being used a lot in politics. In China, they have their own internet. They don't really use ours, and they don't want their people to use ours. They want to sell their own products on their own companies and not through American companies. So in China, the dark web is used to get around what's called the Great Firewall of China. In Egypt, it was used to get around the politicians during Arab Spring. In Iran, it's used to get around the church. One of my friends from Iran insisted that I read a book called Lipstick Jihad to explain to me that jihad, she was trying to communicate what the word meant. And she was trying to tell me it didn't just have to do with war, that it sort of had to do with arguing strenuously to change a position. So she had me read Lipstick Jihad. It has been used, of course, for anonymous and unauthorized news leaks. And it's also used to pirate software, music and movies and TV shows. Again, for social usages, it's used to help domestic violence victims, social worker assistance for those people who are having to get out of dangerous situations without someone else finding out. and for whistleblowing communication with the media. And all of these things are very good things. And most people would argue that the political things were good as well. Possibly not the copyright infringement. The United Kingdom in 2015 decided to make a statement about the dark web and agreed that there was widespread agreement that banning online anonymous systems altogether was not an acceptable policy option in the UK. And that is because of the good uses as well as the bad. The United States has not set any specific policies yet. They are clearly watching what happens and what other countries do in order to make their decision and figure out which way to go legally. The United States has in general not led in legal policies for the internet. So that's the end of Tor. I've tried to show you a little bit about how the actual protocols for the dark web work, and then I tried to show you some of the uses of it and help you see or argue that it's difficult to clarify whether or not it's a good or a bad ethical thing because there are arguments on both sides.